Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
I'm really excited for today's episode. We talk a lot about personal results and personal results at the core, right? I think can be broken down into specific things. And one of those things, when you look at, health, you look at money, you look at finances, you look at relationships, all the things. One of the key things in life is our health, right? I mean, health is really one of the main things that people want to and talk about prioritizing. And I think it's also one of the things that people most often neglect and put off. So I'm excited about this episode because we have a very special guest, Emily Gozy, from Nourished with Emily. And Emily, for our listeners out there who don't know, like you and I know each other really well, but for our listeners out there who don't know who you are, can you just give them a quick background, your company, what you do?
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Emily Gozy. I'm a registered dietitian. And when I was 14, I had an eating disorder. I was on the JV basketball team. The coach said, none of you are in shape to play basketball. This was out of practice after we had gone 2-14. So our season was ending. And as a 14-year-old girl who wanted nothing more than to be a star athlete, which I was not, I'm not gifted with height. I'm not gifted with skills. I'm gifted with dedication and focus. That took, a personal hit to me, especially too, of just wanting, I was one of the oldest on the team, of just wanting to be better and to wanting to lead the team to success, that really spiraled me into an eating disorder at that age. Throughout my treatment, I had to go see a registered dietitian, which really sparked my interest and intrigue into helping people to feel their best. Originally, it was going to be sports dietitian because I loved sports. I played sports in high school. Like I said, not a great athlete, was not good enough to make the teams in college. But it sparked my love of nutrition and understanding really what we put in our bodies can really change how we're doing, how we're recovering from exercise, and then how we live the rest of our lives. So I got my master's degree in sports nutrition and exercise science. I got I sat for my exam to be a registered dietitian. And from there, I decided, okay, maybe I don't want to be a professional sports dietitian. I think I just want to help the regular active person feel their best, especially after my history with an eating disorder. I don't want anyone to have to go through what I did, the trauma that I did, the stress that I did because of the pressure to feel and look and be a certain way, which then brought me to starting Nourished with Emily back in 2019. Now I work with men and women who want to build healthy habits, feel confident in their skin and in the kitchen through nutrition counseling, education, and support. And about 3 years ago now, I went full-time in my business. So we have a variety of offerings, but I'm really passionate about helping to make nutrition, which is so confusing and nuanced, make it easy for people. And I tell people by the end of the time that we're done working together, because our clients graduate, I don't want to work with anyone forever. That means I'm not doing my job, that they can be their own dietitian, that you will know how to eat in certain situations and exactly what you need.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. You going through something like you did at a young age, that made your career right now, and you turned something very negative that many people, and especially girls at that age, go through, that could set them off on a wrong path for the rest of their life. I commend you to taking that step and turning that around. That's amazing.
It was something where, like, even when I was going through treatment and I was seeing a registered dietitian, I was never inpatient. I was always outpatient. But I was seeing a dietitian, I was seeing a therapist, and I didn't really like the therapist. I really jived more with the dietitian. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do sports marketing when I get to college. And then my parents were like, well, what about, like, you really enjoyed, like, you shadowed the dietitian, you really enjoyed your time. Like, have you ever thought about nutrition? And looking deeper into it, I was like, this is so cool because there's a whole science behind everything that we do. And especially with nutrition, it's always changing, but it's really our job as dietitians to take that, like, complex research and information and to turn it into, like, okay, but this is the practical application of it. This is what this means for you. And I can support you in whatever way that you want to take this, whatever route you want to go. But, like, here's what you need to know. And it doesn't have to be as difficult as, like, eat carbs one day and don't eat carbs the next.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing because with social media right now, I feel like you can scroll social media and see one post that says blueberries are the best food you can eat. One post that says blueberries will kill you.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's so much conflicting information that we're just constantly exposed to. But something you talk about a lot that that I want you to touch on a little bit is, I mean, there's this. I think when you look through all the noise, people say, okay, but at the end of the day, it's calories in, calories out, and you should be in a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight, like if that's your goal. But what happens then is people immediately drop to like 400 calories a day eating, and then they start to exercise, and you talk a lot about people not eating enough.
Yeah. It's with the diet culture that we're in, especially for women, but even for men too, we've been told for years, especially like think back, the 90s was a low fat craze. Now, I was four in the 90s, four, one, two, three, four, but Mark's making a face.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't remember that, but reading about it, it was the low fat craze where everything was fat free. So,
Mhm,
and then all of a sudden it was everything was low carb and high fat and high,
mhm.
and all of this other stuff where it created a lot of confusion for people, especially women who are now, let's say 30s, 40s, 50s, where they're like, everything I've tried has either been the best thing and then it's turned into the worst thing possible. And I know that if I have to lose weight, like you said, Mark, that it's being in a calorie deficit. I'm just going to eat as little as possible. But we don't realize is like it is that easy, but it's not that easy because if you've been dieting for a while, you can go through what's called metabolic adaptations, where your body says, I need this much. You're giving me 500 calories less than what I need to sustain life. I'm going to stop doing certain things in order for me to keep going, which usually for people means they don't have hunger and fullness cues anymore. Their digestion is out of whack. They're having a lot of gas, bloating, constipation, feeling off. Their sleep sucks. They have no energy throughout the day. There's low libido. They aren't seeing progress in the gym. They're feeling all of these things. And they're like, oh, I just thought that was normal for my age. And it's like, no, it's because you're eating 800 calories a day. Like that's what a newborn baby needs, not what a 45-year-old woman who goes to CrossFit 5 times a week needs. So it's taking that, oh, maybe less is not best, and saying let's talk about like let's take it from the what does my body need most right now. And honestly, 90% of our clients, we're telling them I need you to eat more. There's not many of our clients where we're saying like, oh my gosh, you're eating 4,000 calories more than you have to, like cut this all back. Most of the times it's like we got to increase your intake, build your metabolism back before we can eventually go back into a deficit, and it will not be eating 1,200 calories.
Yeah. And don't you think there's a lot against all of us too? Like, let's say Wegmans, which in the Northeast, that's one of the big stores, and it's not their fault. They're there to make money.
Right.
They're not a food grocer. They're a business to make money, but it's all about marketing.
Yep.
If you think about it, and especially the food industry, the color of the package, what's on it, and especially like we talked about the low fat or whatever the new thing is, they're going to put that prominently on their packaging. So I guess and I know you know this, but my question is, what's your advice if you go
Well,
into
so
Wegmans or something? Yeah.
yeah, all of the grocery stores, they watch the trends. But it really comes down to the food companies too. So food
Hmm.
companies are going to manipulate three things: sugar, salt, and fat. Those are the three things that are going to make foods actually taste good. That's why when you go out to eat, it always tastes so much better, besides the fact that you didn't have to cook it,
Yeah.
because they're adding more sugar, they're adding more salt, they're adding more fat. They're using a ton of butter when you have your green beans, which is why the green beans out taste so much better than at home. So companies know that, grocery stores know that. They're trying to get you to spend as much as possible for that short amount of time that you're in the store. So they're going to be highlighting some of those things, but they're also looking at consumer trends too. I like to look at it and say to clients, like, can we just keep this simple? Eating what you'd like and adding what you need is one of the easiest ways where you can actually be satisfied with your meal, getting the foods in that you still like. If you want the Post Malone Oreos that are huge right now, that is fine, but let's pair them with a glass of milk and maybe some peanut butter, and trying to make it a little bit more of a balanced snack. So trying to see through of like, okay, some of these claims on this label that, Wegmans is pushing or Price Chopper's pushing, any of them, is just trying to get you to buy it because it's saying it's low in whatever. Well,
Hmm.
that never had any sugar in it, or that never had
Right.
any sodium in it because it's a no sodium added green bean. So trying to figure out like, okay, what exactly are they trying to sell me here?
Hmm.
Is this term or is this claim that they're using regulated? And is this something I even want to eat in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you recommend people looking at the labels, what's in certain things? I know that can be very overwhelming, and I know what I heard years ago is if you cannot pronounce something in the label in the food, you probably shouldn't be eating it, and I know that's very general.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on reading the labels?
Reading the labels is going to help to make you to be a more aware shopper,
Okay.
but we have to know how to read it. So like I
Right.
always tell people, let's look at the nutrition facts panel first. Let's look to see like how much protein you're getting per serving, how much fiber you're getting. Is the fat source a healthy fat versus saturated fat? Are you getting vitamins and minerals out of what you're having? And then looking at that ingredients list and remembering that it goes from most prevalent to least prevalent. So if there's something that you can't pronounce at the end of it, there's not that much in there.
Hmm.
And we also have to remember that all of our food is processed. There is nothing that we eat that is not processed. We're not taking potatoes out of the ground and just eating them with dirt on them. You're not taking
Hmm.
the cow off the farm and just biting into its side. Everything is going to undergo some sort of processing. And with that, they don't want the food to go bad within 2 days, where there might have to be sodium added so that it stays fresher for longer. So it's
Hmm.
looking at it like, yes, the potato chip is highly processed. That doesn't look like a potato at all. But you getting the, let's say, oatmeal that has a couple of things added to it to make it a little bit more shelf stable, it's probably going to be a little bit more nutrient dense than you having the Lay's potato chip.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
I really like when you say, eat, I'm going to butcher what you just said, but eat what you want and get what you need, because I think, what a lot of people do is they go on those crashes, right? And they say, okay, well, I'm throwing the Oreos away, right? I'm going to take the Oreos out of the cabinet. I'm going to toss them, which not necessarily a bad idea, but if that's your go-to like snack food, right? And you're going to be miserable without it.
Yeah.
I mean, what is your, hopefully people aren't miserable without their Oreos. That would be like, that's more of a, you got to work on yourself thing,
Yeah.
but can you talk about that a little bit? Just, is it possible to, get to a healthy weight, and maintain a healthy lifestyle while still enjoying like a slice of pizza or, a cheeseburger, and things like that?
The issue that we have is that we don't like to be told what to do. So if I came on here today and told you guys no
Fair.
more coffee, coffee is the worst
Mm.
thing ever. The next couple of days, you'd be like, all right, Emily said no more coffee. Oh my gosh. But by Friday, Saturday, you're gonna be like, oh man, like I just really want it. And you go to Starbucks and you get two ventis of it. And you're like, I just gotta chug it. I haven't had it in days. That's what happens when we say like no more Oreos. Like Oreos are gonna be the death of me. I can't have them at all. We have that pendulum of like, okay, nothing to like, I'm gonna overdo it. Or like chocolate cake. I can't have chocolate cake. You get to a birthday party and the cake is huge and it's all chocolate. You have 5 slices because you're like, I've been so good. I can't live without this anymore. I need to have it. So it's simplifying it, which is easier than it is. It's harder than I'm saying it is, but of saying like, can I have this? But can I be mindful of the portion? Can I make sure that I'm sitting down to eat my Oreos versus standing over the kitchen sink and eating my Oreos? Can I have my cookies strategically before I go to the gym, which is what I do, because it's a simple carbohydrate and it tastes so good and it's going to help me lift heavier and work out for longer because it's a simple carb versus just having it on its own before I go to bed. So strategically having that stuff and saying, can I pair those with other things? Because it's not going to be healthy or helpful for us to say, like, I can never have any of these things again. Peanut butter is gone because there's whatever added to it. It's harder to stay consistent with. Like, it's easier for you to say, like, I can have this stuff, but I'm going to be mindful about how I'm feeling. I'm going to eat when I'm hungry. I'm going to stop when I'm full. And I'm going to make sure that I also have protein, fruits, and vegetables on the plate too.
Yeah. I have a question about what are your thoughts on a cheat day, 1 day a week?
So you wouldn't cheat on your spouse. You wouldn't cheat on your business partner.
Yeah.
I would hope at least. Why would you be cheating on your health and your
Okay.
nutrition? And
Good.
also too, if you can have this stuff every single day, why would you need a cheat day?
Gotcha. So you're saying that just like what you said earlier, and that's why I was asking, like if you have a little bit of this, you have a couple cookies here
Mhm.
before you work out, and like you said, strategically do it timing wise before workout versus before you go to bed. It essentially is that you consider that a cheat?
No, I wouldn't think so at all.
Okay.
Coming back to that moderation idea of it's 80
Okay.
20, it really is 80 20.
Got it. Okay.
It's not cheating if I'm aware of that I'm doing it. Cheating also has that idea of like, oh, I'm being bad. Like, oh, I've
Gotcha.
been so good, I could be bad now. It's like food has no morality. So
Right.
why would we feel like, oh, I'm being bad because I can have whatever it is?
Yeah, because and I'm sure this is something that I learned years ago. You got to really, if you have a food problem, let's say you're overweight, whatever. Oftentimes, it's a lot mental. Not that you can't
Yes.
have some physical issues too, but a lot of it's mental. How you think of food. So I think what you said is you wouldn't cheat on your spouse. Why would you? That was like okay, that made sense to me.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little about the mental side of the food?
It's honestly, especially for our weight loss clients, is 50% mental.
Yeah.
Relationship with food is huge. We had a whole conversation about this last night in our group program of talking about our relationship with food is formed before we're even aware of it. So, like, it's how your parents talk about food, it's the environment that you're in. It's like, okay, your parents never let you have soda. That's something that you feel like you can't live
Mm,
without anymore because you finally had soda and you're going crazy on it. So it's changing that relationship with food, but also creating more awareness. We live in a society where we're on autopilot constantly, where we're just trying to go to that next thing, or we're saying that was a really tough conversation with my boss. I deserve to have chocolate. I deserve to have a dessert today because I need to feel better. We have to stop doing that and say like, okay, like I can have this stuff, but I don't have to earn anything, or it doesn't have to be in that situation. I need to start thinking of like, okay, is this helping me? Can I have this as part of my meal versus in addition to my day? But also checking in too of, am I even hungry right now? With a lot of those craving things, we're not even hungry. It's just because it's there and in front of us and we're feeling attacked or we're feeling stressed and I need something to make me feel better. But when we think about it, having the cupcake or having the chocolate when you're stressed out, you're still stressed after you have the chocolate or the cupcake. You don't
yeah.
feel any better. That worry is still there. You're still trying to work through it. So it's trying to frame that idea of like, can I be more aware of how I'm feeling and how I'm reacting? Can I also build more pauses into my day where I'm
Hmm.
able to pause and say, like, what is my body telling me right now? Do I need a chocolate, or can I go outside and go on a walk for a couple minutes and just get some fresh air and calm down?
Hmm. Yeah, so replacing exercise or even like you said, a walk, which is exercise in itself, with that food, with that snack, if you're feeling stressed, right?
That's a piece of it, or even
Yep,
just like having that conversation with yourself.
got it.
So like we sit on the couch, my husband and I sit on the couch every night and we watch shows. We're watching Severance right now. It's my favorite show on TV. And there'll be times where I'll be like, I want popcorn. And I will say that out loud. And I've trained Joe to be like, do you really? Like, are you hungry right now? Like asking that question of like,
Yeah.
are you hungry?
Mm,
We ate an hour ago. And he's not asking it from like a you can't have popcorn. I've
right.
just told him to ask me like when I say I want this stuff, ask me if I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I want something to do with my hands. And so I'm like,
Right.
all right,
Right.
like
Right.
let's go watch TV in our room, or let's switch
Yeah.
sides of the couch. Let's change that environment that we're in so it's not that
Mm,
trigger of me sitting on the couch that I want popcorn.
yeah. That's a great tip. That's really good. I like that.
So Emily, I have two. I don't know, like one of them you probably touched on it, but I just want to like put a cap on one thing, and then the other
Mhm.
one's a separate question. But first question: so when you first meet with a client, right? And I mean, I think with any I mean with what I do, with what you do, any kind of person who helps other people do something, when you first have that initial meeting, they have so many preconceived I right I spend the first 30 days working with anybody teaching them to stop thinking they know everything, right? Because it leads to so many mistakes at the offset. So prior to working with somebody like you, they've made mistake after mistake, and they get to that point where it's nothing's going to work. Like I'm just going to be overweight and unhealthy
At my
feeling.
wit's
And
end.
Mhm.
so exactly. So when you meet people who are at that point, because I know I guarantee you we have some listeners who, the people who listen were high achievement people, but they hit that point. What is one of the most common mistakes that you see those people repeating? And I guess what do you tell them? Like, how do you get them out of that pattern?
It's the bullshit story. Sorry if we can't swear that we that we have in our head for the entire time. Where it's the like, all right, I'm going in skeptical. I haven't done this before. I've never worked with a registered dietitian. It's probably not going to work. Well, if you're already going in with that 50% mindset, like it's not
Hmm.
going to happen. Like I'm not going to lose weight. Your brain is actively looking for ways to get you out of this, to say like,
Hmm.
all right, like actively sabotaging in that moment. So part of it is actually having that belief in ourselves, but I like to connect with our potential clients and our clients and say like, look, I understand where you're coming from. I'll share part of my own story, or I'll share a story of a client that's working with us and saying you're not alone in this, because oftentimes when we get to that point, they feel hopeless, they feel stuck, they feel confused, they're like, I don't know what's happening, nothing is going to fix it. We have to get to that point of saying, let's just be open, give me a couple months, let's try this together, let's take it small. And even on that first conversation, on our initial call with clients, we're not talking about being in a calorie deficit or anything. I'm having them just create more awareness, start tracking your food, figure out where you're starting from, let's look at your exercise, let's create a or use a magnifying glass to figure out where are we with these habits and what exactly is going on before we make any changes. I don't want you to have to worry about the scale at all. And usually they come back within that first session, they're like, my energy's better, my clothes are fitting better, I'm not bloated anymore. And I'm like, we haven't even done anything yet. But just to create that like slow down, and also having that belief in yourself of this is something different, let me leave my reservations at the door, and giving myself the time and the space to try this and to be fully dedicated to it. You cannot go into something and be like, well, it's probably not going to work, so I'm only going to give like 50% of it. You got
Hmm.
to go in and you have to believe in yourself. And it takes time. It takes time for sure. But, we try to build community with our clients, which I think does help with that, of having other people share and be in that same space as them and understanding you're not alone. You're not the only one who struggles when you go out to eat and you go to a place and it's a burger place and there's no veggies on the menu, but you decide like, all right, I'm going to be mindful, I'm going to eat half of the burger. You're not alone in that situation, which can help with making that change. But I would say 50% of the time, it's that BS conversation that's happening in our head, where if you listen to yourself out loud, you'd be like, wow, I am so mean. Like, why am I so mean?
Yeah. That
Yeah.
it's funny. You went in a very different direction than I thought you were going to, but like it was a way better direction because I think, the people I know who are achievers, like who actually, business owners, people who are doing things, they are the hardest on themselves. And when they run into obstacles, it's not like it's funny how rarely they focus on the obstacle first. A lot of times they focus on what's wrong with them first, right? Like it's me, right? It's not
Hmm.
the obstacle, it's not, the circumstances. There's something wrong with me and I need to fix it, because that's how we, and I'm the same. This is how I am. I always say, what can I fix in myself first before I try to crash through the wall? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting point as far as people listening, not telling yourself that story, that you're by yourself, you're broken and you're alone and you can't do this, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do
I'll
anything
never,
that,
I'll never go full time in my business. I'll
right.
never be able to do that. I won't make $1 million. It's like, well, if you have that attitude, it's not going to happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to run full speed ahead.
Yeah.
So that was my first question, and you nailed it. So my second question, because you are one of the people I admire for sharing in what I call virtual omnipresence with me, right?
Mhm.
You are everywhere.
Yep.
You are at all the things, on all the, shows, podcasts, everywhere. You're also a business owner. You're also a wife, all of the things, right? When you have those days, because I had one yesterday where I was like 3 meetings behind,
Mhm.
and I had a solid breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning, but my next meal wasn't coming until 9 p.m. because of the way the schedule happened. Where do you stop? What's your like, I gotta eat something. I didn't plan ahead. I'm gonna put a note in there because I know you would probably plan ahead. I'm just out and I gotta get food. What do you do?
So are you asking like where would I go for a meal?
Sure.
Okay.
Where, or what genre?
Okay.
Is genre a word?
I think there we
Cuisine,
go.
not genre. Just panic situation. You're in the
Yeah.
car, meeting to meeting. You got about 15 to 20 minutes tops. What do you do?
Yeah. So I know that I love Taco Bell, but I usually feel like crap after I have it. So I'm not stopping at Taco Bell, especially if we got meetings in the afternoon and in person. You don't want that. Same thing too with like McDonald's. Like, yeah, I could go get a Happy Meal, but gonna feel greasy, gross afterwards. I would stop and pick up like a sub sandwich. I'd stop at Wegmans, or I love DeBella's, which is here in Syracuse. They
Yeah.
also have them in Rochester, Buffalo. Subway if I have to, but it's kind of low on my list because they're not as super consistent. But I'd pick up a half a sub or a quarter sub at Wegmans. I don't need a half of one. And I know that I'm going to get protein, carbs, and color, which is what we teach our clients to have that balanced meal. And it's something that's quick and easy. And you usually get at least 4 ounces of protein from the meat that they put on there, where you're going to get 30 grams of protein and you're going to feel good. And I don't feel like crap after I have that.
Yeah.
That's a great answer for two reasons. Number one, it's just a great answer. But number two, you have two other people on this podcast. When every so often I'll walk in on Theron when he's eating his emergency meal, and it's usually a sandwich, exactly what you said, like a sub, right? And yesterday I bombed through Taco Bell. So see, that was like you got such a balance here of I wolfed down a burrito supreme in 15 minutes. So
I mean, if it's breakfast time and we might go to like Brugger's, I would pick up, or Dunkin' Donuts, or I like the Starbucks egg bites. But yeah, Taco Bell's good, but only when I'm drunk.
Yeah.
Hopefully I wasn't, but it's great.
Yeah, I hope that wasn't you yesterday.
No, it was not me yesterday. Today maybe. Yesterday, not so much. So
your coffee isn't black.
Yeah. No, this is great. So, do you have some action plans for our listeners? What should they do now? I think one of them, of course, would be if they want to improve, contact you. But we'll get to that at the end. But something they can do right after they listen.
Keep it simple.
Okay.
The reason why you cannot stay consistent with your nutrition is you are overcomplicating it. Keep it simple. Eat your 3 meals a day. Make sure that there's the protein, carb, and color. Make sure that you're having a snack in the afternoon. Stop trying to overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be a Food Network dish that took you 4 hours to make for dinner. Keep it simple.
And I like that protein, carbs, and color.
That's PCC.
Yep, that's very good. Okay.
Number 2 would be using your calendar to your advantage. So trying to not let it be that I'm flying from the seat of my pants all week long. Sit down on a Sunday. Like, I have my calendar with me. Everything for the week is written out, like what I have going on, where I need to be, what's happening. And then we can plan the meals and exercise from there. Like, I know I have time this afternoon, hopefully, to go to the gym and get a workout in, but I wouldn't have known that unless I didn't sit down and look at my calendar. So put everything on your calendar. When you're going grocery shopping, what time you're going to be eating dinner, who's making dinner, if your spouse also makes dinner, but have that planned out, and it'll be easier to achieve. So you're not walking to the refrigerator at 5 o'clock and be like, I don't know what's going to be for dinner tonight. I guess we should just order takeout. And then number 3, I would say, is ask for help. Especially if you're looking for like nutrition and consistency, always look for a registered dietitian. All dietitians are nutritionists. Not all nutritionists are registered dietitians. Anyone can call themselves a nutritionist. So trying to make sure that if you're going to be working with someone, you're working with someone that is reputable, that is a registered dietitian. You're going to be able to get that science backed. It's not just someone saying, I lost weight, I can teach you how to do it too. Look for credentials, look for training, ask questions. Ask questions.
Can you explain that a little bit more, registered dietitian?
Yeah.
I want you to brag a little bit, if you would, but really it's for everybody. Because I think that was a good point, because you hear somebody say they're a nutritionist, which, I could be a nutritionist, like what you said. And I do have a lot of experience in that, through people and myself and being an athlete all my life. However, I haven't gone to school for it, and I don't know the science behind it. So if you could explain that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah. So to become a registered dietitian now, you have to have at least a master's degree, either your bachelor's and master's in nutrition, or one or both. You have to do similar to a physician. You have to you have to do a national match pool for your internship. So it's 1,200 hours unpaid, for basically a year. You're actually paying to do the internship. They're not paying you at all. And then you have to sit and do your boards exam. And you have to be re-credentialed every 5 years. So you have to do continuing education and submit all of that. That is the purpose of being a registered dietitian, is like, it's a legal thing where our job is to protect the public from nutrition misinformation. Dietitians are also the only like nutrition people that you would find in a hospital because we can help with diet orders. So you wouldn't find your nutritionist working in a hospital or working at a renal clinic for like kidney disease or something like that, because they might only be looking at it in certain ways. Those people that are nutritionists or personal trainers, they have some knowledge of nutrition. I don't want to discount that at all. You know, my personal trainer, he has definitely some knowledge, but legally with their credentials, they're not allowed to give personalized nutrition advice. The only people that are allowed to do that are registered dietitians because of the training and the high standard that we have to go through. Similar to a registered nurse, it's the same thing to like a registered dietitian, that you have to have that education and that understanding to be able to give personalized nutrition prescriptions. You know, they can absolutely educate on like, yes, you need half of your plate to be color. You should probably eat more protein. Stop going to the drive-through as much. But a registered dietitian is like that. It's the highest level of what it is of being a dietitian.
Okay. Well, that was good. That was good. Yeah. So like you said, you're not discounting that, you know?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many people, and I've learned from so many people who don't have the RD credential who are still so knowledgeable in nutrition and share their things, but it's not the same.
Yeah. That was good. No, I like that. I appreciate that clarification for sure.
And Emily, before we wrap up, there was one follow-up question I had because you talked about tracking what you're eating. Do you have, I mean, obviously you can just write it in a notebook, you know, I mean, that's the easy way, but do you have an app or anything that you recommend to people when they start working with you?
So you could use Lose It. You could use MyFitnessPal. Inside of our platform, I use an app called Practice Better with our clients that they get access to. They don't have to pay for it. I pay for it, where they can track their food in there. And then I can leave feedback on it. So I can see that you've had half of a pizza and I could say like, hey, would you have felt satisfied with 2 slices of pizza versus 4 slices of pizza? So I like that app a lot because you can also do pictures of your food. And sometimes you don't have the time to look through like the nutrition information or to figure out exactly what you had, where I can still see the portions and give you feedback on it.
Yeah. That's good. I love it.
Cool. And then, you know, like just as we wrap up, so if people here are interested in working with you, interested in, you know, getting a hold of you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, Nourished with Emily. You can also find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group, or go to our website where there are tons of blogs. There's a ton of resources on there and recipes. It's nourishedwithemily.com. And then I also post a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn. So if you're someone who is in business and want to bring in a dietitian to help with bettering your wellness programs, I share a lot of resources and tips on there too.
He has a great newsletter. It's a great newsletter. So definitely subscribe to the newsletter. So Emily, thank you for being on. It was great to have you as a guest on the podcast. We appreciate you being here. To our listeners, thank you for listening. Please share this with people who you think would enjoy it, which I think is everybody. This was a great podcast.
Yeah.
And we will see you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.